the thing I love about music is that it is forever morphing. It never stays the same. There was a minute where everybody's like, we're going to run out of notes. We've run all the possible combinations. It's like, I don't think that's right. And so that got in there, and then that started driving what I got involved in. Right. So once I was sure I wanted to do music, and I was pretty damn sure I was not going to be Keith Urban or Brent Mason, I wanted to be around it. I wanted to be part of it, but I also recognized where I was not going to be successful.
And how did Nashville factor into, I want to be around music? So you didn't want to be on tour every night. I want to play in studios, because Nashville had a lot of them and you were close enough.
Well, I mean, I wished it was more complicated than this. Quite simply, Nashville seemed the least threatening of the major music centers, right? So LA was daunting. New York was daunting. This was a little friendlier. At the time, it was still pretty small. It had kind of developed its reputation as the third coast because of its relationship to the recording industry. What's interesting about this city that I wished I had the foresight to see was its relationship geographically to the country is really important. It sits at the nexus of the two major thoroughfares, north and south and east and west, right? All the infrastructure is here, and you're within 60% of the US population on a 1 day's drive. So when you look today and you look at who all is based here, I mean, every freaking old heavy metal guy's here, like the country business, the pop business, and there's everything else you need to be in that industry in a way that I don't think, at the time it wasn't as obvious as it is now. Sure. And what you see now is everybody and their brother coming here because of these other factors.
And what, was it that complex of a decision for you?
No.
Right. No.
No, it was easy.
Let's go play music. Here's where we'll go. And so,
Yeah.
what was in the lapse between you leave the studio session, I got to make money, and then you said in 91, you started paying for yourself, paying your way with your own ideas. Yeah. How much time was in between those two?
About 2 weeks. Okay. I mean, I had to do something. Yeah. I wasn't going to make rent. Mm-hmm. And so I got a job working for Jimmy Lenahan. Jimmy owned vinyl pressing plants. And I swept the floor. I didn't have a car. I got a car soon thereafter when the city bus that I was riding got raided by the police because there was a drug dealer on the bus and guns drawn, the whole thing. And when I was, sharing this with my mother, basically she put the phone down and I could hear her telling my dad that he was going to get me a car.
There you go.
It also blew hot air all the time. So anyway, it wasn't a Porsche. But I would say that out of desperation, I wanted to get anywhere near anything that was the music business. And at that point it was vinyl pressing.
And then how long were you sweeping floors between something else happened, especially I got to start something?
Yeah. So I started sweeping floors. Then I took a second job on the graveyard shift, became a bin loop mastering engineer, which I didn't know how to do. So I'm teaching myself as I go. And then finally, this was back in the day when CDs were brand new. And so I would work a day shift and then I would work at night. And so I was around that place all the time, and I started really paying attention to what was going on. And I realized that they were effectively brokering CDs. They weren't making them. They were telling people they made them. They didn't make them. They were assembling them in the back room, right, with the day labor force.
Assembling the jewel case.
The jewel case and but the CDs were coming from Cinram in Canada at the time. And, I started noticing that the margins were ridiculous at the time, right? Like almost inexcusably ridiculous, right? And so I went to the owner and I said, hey, I might be able to help develop some business for these compact discs that you're hawking. And so he agreed to let me on a commission basis sell. But I made a really bad deal on my behalf, right? And so after about 6 months of doing that, I'm coming into the office and I'm sitting in these meetings and I'm beating everybody in the room, including the head of sales who's driving a Jaguar, right? And I'm driving a Pontiac 6000 STE that frickin' blows hot air all the time. And I'm like, what am I doing? And so I went into Jim's office one day after one of these meetings, and I said, look, man, I said, I think I made a really bad deal on my behalf, and I want to change it. And he told me to go make love to myself. Oh, okay. So I did. And I quit on the spot, and I bought a Mac Color Classic, which I still own. And I ran an 800 number into my apartment, and I started a CD manufacturing brokerage called Empire Arts. And within a year, I had a giant book of business. Yeah. And I took that and parlayed it into ownership in a full facility. And then we took that facility from kind of it just was what it was. Yeah. I mean, it had several $1 million worth of gear in it. We made big records for big artists.
Where was that?
It was in Brentwood. It used to be called the Toy Box. It was Tom T. Hall's old studio. Okay. And then as this thing grew, we started what I would consider to be today would be coined as artist services. Yep. So you could walk in the front door with nothing, and you could walk out the back door with a distribution deal, with your product, right? With kind of with everything. And then in 1993, back to my hacker roots, I started building publicly facing websites because I thought the internet was the coolest thing I had ever seen, right? And that's back in the day when it was 22 baud modems, right? This is ancient fucking history. So in doing that, I got, first I put our website up, the studio's website, and everybody's like, why do we need what do we need an email for? Why do we need a website? And then we got our first booking. And I'm like, this is why, right? Yeah. Boom. And then soon thereafter, I started working with a band called the Floating Men, who are still making records today. And they had been signed. They were nearly hot shit. They had a really bad experience, but they had a huge 75,000 person physical mailing list. This is, again, back in the day, right? And I was neighbors with the bass player. And we started talking, and slowly but surely, we came to an agreement that this artist services thing was the way to go, and so on and so forth. And we ended up agreeing, we're going to make your next record, and we're going to build an e-commerce platform to support selling music directly to your fans, which in 1993-4 was ridiculous. It was lunacy. And that turned into April 20th, 1995, we launched 4 months before Amazon opened their doors, a direct-to-consumer music platform play.